All right, Rawcast listeners, we are back once more. Doug and Spencer, as promised. Yo, diggity.
Sorry.
As promised, we did our primary episode where we talked about the different candidates and the lead up, what the current polls were, and all that. Because we're recording this the same day, we will not have the election results, the primary results, if you will. But we are here to have our more candid episode, more relaxed. The belt buckles are still attached, but we're loose. So what's happening, Spencer? We haven't seen each other in quite a while. You said June or July of last year?
I think July of last year is the last time I saw you. So yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah,
you had hair then.
Yeah, I shaved my head. It's my summer look. Very streamlined. Makes me more aerodynamic when I fight.
Does it make you feel like awkward when you look outside and see snow that you have your summer look already?
Yeah, it kind of did because I shaved my head and for like the first 3 days I was like, it's cold.
Understandable.
But yeah, I mean, our history goes way back.
Well, yeah, I remember the first time I met Doug was my very first day in the dorms in college in Stevens Point.
Higher Hall,
walking down the hallway, and I see this short, chubby girl with long hair walking in front of me as I'm heading towards a floor meeting, and she walks into the meeting with everyone else, and I'm like, who is this? Is she lost? Like, should I say something? Like, I don't know anybody.
You want
and then she turns around and it was Doug, because he had extremely long blonde hair at the time.
Yeah, it was good. I was a metalhead, and I totally lived that look for quite a while.
You owned it. You did.
I owned it hard.
Dude, I still remember I would get so pissed. He would go to, he lived down the hall from me. He'd go into the showers, take a shower. He'd go back to his room, change, come into my room with his wet hair. He wouldn't say a word to me. He'd just come in with his wet hair. He'd go to my computer. He'd put on some metal song, and he'd just start head twirling to it, flopping water all over the walls of my room. I'm like, you son of a bitch.
I was kind of rude with that because I did that to quite a few people. I mean, when I left, there would be water splattered across the ceiling, the walls, computers, TVs, and then I'd leave with semi-dry hair.
It was like owning a dog. It was pretty awful.
Okay, fine. You want to play that game? I remember you once. I was laying on the floor in my room, and you pretended to beef stew me. For those of you that don't know, that's when someone's on the ground and you squat down to kind of teabag them and let a fart go.
Good times.
Spencer came down so hard. I just saw Spencer's ass cheeks and crotch coming my way. And about 3 inches away from my face, rip! His pants from crotch to waistline, damn near, just ripped wide open.
They don't make pants like they used to.
But I was like, oh no, I'm about to get teabagged. I'm going to get mad. And then all of a sudden, Spencer's pants were like, release.
I think you're forgetting the best part of the story.
What's that?
That wasn't in your room. That was in the room of a friend of yours on the 4th floor of the building.
That was Carrie's room.
I lived on the 1st floor.
Yep.
I then had to walk down several flights of stairs with almost no pants.
That'll happen, though.
It's an amazing thing. I luckily did not run into anyone in the hallway.
Well, I remember when I lived on 2nd floor in that particular dorm, we had a faulty lock eventually, and we didn't find out until me, was in a very compromising situation with a partner of sorts of the opposite sex. a friend just... With the door locked, a friend just waltzed right in. And that caused some trouble. We'll say that.
As it is wont to do.
We had good times. We got to connect. Eventually, we moved behind Marvin's, which we both... For those of you that don't know, Marvin's was the best place if you were drunk to get a garlic cheeseburger at, say, 2 a.m.
I think I spent more money at Marvin's than any other place when I lived in Stevens Point.
I think I can agree with you, especially when we lived literally right behind it.
It made a really convenience factor there.
For those of you that remember the episode with Nathan, when I lived in an apartment with Nathan, Spencer here actually lived in the same apartment complex. And so it was quite easy for us to see each other because we would just walk across the parking lot.
It was handy. It was handy being near you, though. I will remember there was a couple of exploits that were quite interesting.
Yeah, we had some interesting endeavors at that time.
I still remember the day that you taught me what a chili willy was.
Oh my god. Okay. Again, living with Nathan. I don't know if we ever mentioned it, but we came up with a dice game, which was a drinking game. And actually, before you got here today to discuss the Wisconsin primaries, I was looking through notebooks trying to find ones that would be good in case we wanted to jot down some notes. And I came across the original rules of the dice game. Still? Yeah, I saved notebooks if they still had good paper in them. And so, like, it was in my Art History 181 notebook or something. I found them. So about 10 minutes before you got here, I sent Nathan a text, which was a picture of the original rules.
8 years ago. You still have that?
Yeah, apparently. But so, for those of you that don't know, a Chili Willy is a Peterson tradition of sorts. It's where you take a bar shot glass, turn it upside down, and this is one of those that has like a concave bottom, and you fill that with whiskey. Then you proceed to use your nostril to suck up said whiskey out of the bottom of the shot glass. Holy cow. The last time I saw somebody perform a whiskey, or a Chili Willy, a Chili Willy using Jim Beam was Nathan, and he actually was able to get half of it with one nostril. And I used to have a video on my phone where I said, Nathan, you have one more nostril to defile. You got to finish the Chili Willy. So he gets down and uses the same nostril as he did for the first snort to take the rest of it. And he goes, it burns. And you could see tears in his eyes and then blood drip down from the nostril.
I remember you telling me this back then because I was over drinking a few weeks later, and you said, for the game, if you roll, you got to do it. And I refused because, see, folks, I have some respect for my nostrils.
Yeah, it was short-lived. We didn't do that.
No, because you did it that night.
Yeah.
You did. And see, you would learn from Nathan's mistake. So after doing the first one up the one nostril, you switched to the other. Yep. Like a trooper.
Nathan, two nostrils. Each person has one, unless you have a deviated septum. But we used to do all kinds of cool things.
I told people that story of them, and everyone I've ever talked to is just like, no.
The Chili Willy?
No. I have told that story many times. People are all like, every single person I've talked to, like, no. and then I explained that was exactly my reaction. I'm sitting like, what you leave out is you need the whiskey or what have you. You need the shot glass, and then you need a mattress because you're going to fall on your shit because you're crying because your nose hurts.
Oh, yeah. Were you there for the night I threw up and forever have stomach problems listening to Kenny Loggins?
I don't know if I was there for that. I was there for the day in the dorms. You did the gallon challenge.
Oh, please enlighten the Rawcast listeners on what Luke Jonas and I did for the gallon challenge.
So these idiots decide they're going to try the gallon challenge. Now this was for...
By the way, I'm lactose intolerant now.
I think this caused it. I really do. For those of you who are sadly young, I will say this is before you had like the cinnamon challenge, and where every week YouTube comes up with a new challenge for people who are too stupid to not do them.
And this was before the butt chug kids.
I don't even want to. No. Okay. Anyway, I'm not even gonna address that because I don't even know what that is right now. Anyway. I'm sure you'll enlighten me later. So
hopefully not.
So they get this idea. Let's do the gallon challenge, which is where you attempt to drink an entire gallon of milk within 1 hour. And so they knew where this was going. We all knew where this was going. So they emptied the trash cans in the dorm room. They sat on beds facing each other. So they had fresh trash cans in front of each other. They got their gallons of milk. We started the clock.
And this is when I was living with David Klug, I believe, who is currently in Japan as we record this episode.
Is he a D-bot robot over there?
D-bot robot. That's a subject for another time. Dave Klug, if you ever make it back stateside, we'd love to hear it, because last I had heard before the Japan trip, you were an English teacher in South Korea.
Cool.
He went on to do some cool things.
Cooler than me.
But no, he was a hell of a roommate.
Oh, yeah.
Dave Klug, I miss you.
Good guy.
So anyway,
these two jackasses sit across from each other with gallons of milk, and they start, going forward. And I don't remember like your necessary styles, like what your strategy was. I remember one of you was more like conservative, like let's try to pace this out, and the other was just like woohoo.
I think I tried to pace it out, so therefore I was able to hold more in. Because Luke ended up.
He got halfway. He got about halfway, as I recall.
Jonas got halfway, and then he threw up.
You were a trooper. You kept going. You had already gotten to the point where you're just like, I feel okay, and haha, you threw up at the halfway point, and then you kept going. Again, people, I don't understand why you guys did this. So he keeps going. He gets to about. So there's about like a quarter or a fifth.
Mind you,
gallon left.
Jonas quit at halfway, threw up a bunch, and was good enough to go out drinking later.
Right.
I, on the other hand...
Again, you had about a quarter to a fifth of the gallon left, and you had the look of death on your face. And you're sitting there like, I gotta do this. and then it just ended. It ended right there. You just threw up like crazy, dude.
I didn't throw up.
I remember you throwing up.
Did I throw up?
You threw up in that trash can.
Because what I remember most, spoiler alert, is diarrhea.
I don't remember your diarrhea because that's between you and whatever happens in those awful bathrooms.
I got stuck because in the dorms we lived in, we had, it was a handicap stall. So it was like a private room where it had a toilet, sink, and a shower stall. And you could lock the door, so you had a little privacy. I was unlucky. Somebody was showering at the time, and so I had to use one of the 3 stalls available with explosive diarrhea from drinking way too much milk in a short period of time. And, so basically, long story short, we were dumb for trying to achieve the gallon challenge.
They were very dumb.
And I have lived on. Now I realize, like, if I have a bowl of ice cream now, holy cow, does my digestive system...
It's muscle memory right there. That's muscle memory.
It probably is.
Speaking of those bathrooms, the higher hall is gone. They've torn it down. They built the new suite style dorms at the university.
This is at the University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point.
Yep. And the kids most of the buildings have been renovated. Most of the doors have been renovated since then. They've been going through a huge project to uplift them, and I believe that's because I think higher was beyond saving. It was built in 1973. They built
something like that.
They built it, or the last renovation or something like that was like 1973.
It was still one of the newer buildings though. My grandfather lived in May Roach.
Yeah, because there's roaches.
No. Prey Sims. Sorry.
Prey Sims. I was saying. Regardless, they don't know how good they have it.
No, they don't.
No. See, this is what people don't
We
remember.
each had radiators.
We had radiated heat, and
remember the winter in February where they broke down?
That sucked.
We were living in the dorms with basically sweatpants and winter coats on with hats and gloves, sitting at our desks doing homework because the radiated heat was broken.
I was doing that anyway. My roommate decided that he likes cold and would keep the window open, and I didn't like the cold. So it literally got to the point I'd sit there and, shoes on, hat, gloves, winter coat, watching TV. He sat there in a sweatshirt, sweatpants.
Remember when it broke the opposite way? And so it was just wide open heat and we couldn't control it at all?
Yeah, there's never any goodness with it.
It was 95 degrees in the dorms in the middle of winter. The majority of us had our windows wide open in shorts and a t-shirt sitting at our desk.
Right. What?
Snow coming into the room.
Awful. I remember like the way the water worked is that the pipes came up one solid way. So the first floor got the best heated water,
Second
so on and
floor
so
was
forth.
Awful.
By the time we got to the fourth floor, there was chunks of ice coming out of the faucet, and And then it came through, so the pipe came up, and then it came over across the showers. Now, so if you were in like the aforementioned handicaps, handicap accessible stalls, you got the warmest water, and then the next stall over got a little bit colder, and if you're in the third stall, again, ice cubes. So it was always a mad dash for the handicap stall, because then you could actually take a hot shower. Otherwise, if you came later in the day, it would be fine. But if you were trying to get ready in the morning, you were screwed. Which is, I don't know about you, but I had a strategy. I always got the handicap stall. Every time. I got it every time. What I would do is, if I'd go in there and it wasn't, and it was being used, is I would sit in the stalls. I'd sit on the toilet, close the stall, and I'd sit there and I'd wait, like staring out the crack of the stall, staring at the handicap door, waiting. This if I wasn't in a huge hurry. And the moment that door opened, boom, I bolted out of there like a fucking racehorse, trying to win the Kentucky Derby, and right in there. A couple of times I did that, and a couple of guys are like, all right, I walked in at the right moment. Boom, I burst out the doors like a ninja, and they're like, what the hell is this?
And see, that's the one good thing. When I was living on second floor, eventually, because I moved from first floor to second in the second semester of my freshman year, and I stayed on second floor for my sophomore year. And I ended up having a night job where I'd get back to Stevens Point like 2:30 in the morning. So at 2:30 in the morning, there's not many people showering. So I would just go live it up. The only thing I wish I had at the time would be smartphones, so I could listen to music while I was in there.
Yeah, they had them back then, but they cost you everything.
Literally, be like, you had to sign up to give a kidney.
Right, to get one back then. I didn't have I didn't get a smartphone until literally a year ago, when I finally broke down and got a smartphone.
Burp.
And yeah, seriously, the kids today, they don't know how good they have it for that kind of stuff.
Emptying things. No, they really don't. And like,
I feel like I'm 90 when I say that, by the way.
I actually have employees where I work tell me that I'm old.
Yeah, I'm not sitting there like, when I was your age, I used to have to walk uphill both ways to get to the dorms.
And it was snow the whole way. But there are saviors among the younger generation. I know we're kind of like switching gears here, but I work with like a 16, 17-year-old kid who, like, when songs and now people who don't know, Spencer for the longest time was big into the 70s music. Still
am.
And he feels like he missed out. Like, he should have lived in the 70s kind of thing. And I actually, at work, we have 80s music that comes on a lot. And I find myself singing along to the 80s music. And there is a high school-aged individual singing the words right along with me. And to that, I go, wow, this 16/17-year-old kid, he's singing along with these songs that I grew up with. I have some faith in humanity yet.
There's the good ones out there. I mean, there's plenty of shitbags, but you have the good ones here and there, and I've met quite a few, in the various jobs that I've had and people I've talked to, and there's I've made some friends amongst kids, the young kids. It was one of those things where I'm just like, you gotta keep friends at arm's length until they're a certain age, and it's like, okay, then we can like officially be friends because people don't think it's weird now.
All right, here's who I really am.
Right.
But we'll get back to this comment in just a moment. This topic is very interesting to me because, sometimes you feel like you're drifting into life. Just drifting through. And you lose who you are. But the important thing is, you're you. You beautiful bastard. It'll seem like nothing to you, but we're about to take a pee break. All right, so as I said, it would seem like almost nothing to you. It was 1 second, but really I was gone for 45.
It was amazing. He just kept going.
He just kept going. It doesn't stop.
It was like Austin Powers.
Chasing waterfalls.
Yep.
Austin Powers, yeah. Evacuation complete.
Evacuation complete.
Back in the day, like, because we've been separated for a while.
Yes.
As most of you know, I'm married, have kids. I was going to grad school for a while, dropped out. Ran my own business for a while, dropped out. And Spencer's been chugging along, doing his own thing, too.
Yep.
Working on education, postgraduate education, and trying to get a good job.
Working as hard as I can.
Yeah, there was a simpler time when you and I would just meet up to play Halo on the daily.
God, I miss video games.
I do too. I don't know about you, but the only video game I've legitimately played in the past 3 months, probably, I played a little StarCraft 2 because Legacy of the Void came out, and I love me some StarCraft. But then I believe my wife and I played a little Mario Kart 64 not that long ago. But that's it. Gaming has been out the window.
Other than the occasional, like, game, I mean, I haven't really played a game in, like, forever. And, too busy with school and work and all that stuff. And, I don't even have a current gen system. I do not have one.
I don't either. We've got as you can see, actually, sitting off to the side here in my living room where we record in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. I have a Super Nintendo, a Nintendo 64, and what you can't see is that I have a GameCube and a PlayStation 2. A PlayStation 2, not a 3, not a 4, a 2.
Somewhere hipsters are crying out.
Like, what's wrong with that, bro? You got the classics, and that's what counts.
No, I totally understand because it was one thing to keep up with buying the latest systems, buying the latest games, having all the whatnots, DLC. Well, they didn't really have much DLC content back then. They released a separate disc that they screwed you on instead of just letting you download the screws.
DLC upsets me. That's part of why. I mean, yeah, obviously I can't afford it because I work for peanuts and I know that I have a couple coworkers out there listening to this. Don't tell the boss I said I work for peanuts because I pretty much do. A 4-year management degree gets me, hey, guess what? You'll be lucky if you pay your bills this month.
America.
Freedom isn't free. There's a hefty fucking fee.
But I feel like, it's one thing to have all those things when your parents are footing that bill. But the moment I have to start paying for my own systems, like, no, that shit's too expensive.
Well, look at me. Now have 2 kids, which obviously, yeah, I love the crap out of my kids. Odin Gage, represent. Every day I go to work, I see my older son Odin in the bedroom window giving me the Dio horns, rock on. Love that. My kids are great. But holy crap, I went from working my way through college and having access to playing video games. I never personally owned a current gen system since the GameCube came out.
That's a long time.
Like, I knew people who had Xbox 360s.
You're damn right you did.
And I remember the last time you and I played Halo together, because we played in the dorms a lot.
Yes.
It got up to where, like, Rainbow, Andrew, he and I would average somewhere between, like, 25 and 35 kills per game.
I don't even remember anymore.
It got nuts, because I remember going over to your place one day when I was under the influence of a little herb, I guess. I ended up getting 30 kills, and that was when, you went to 50 as a team. I got 30 out of our team's 50 kills, played one game with you, set the controller down, and left almost without a word. And that was the last time I've played Halo.
That was crazy times, because I remember sitting there one day, I'm playing Halo 3. I don't remember who I was playing with. Somebody was in there with me playing, and my roommate walks in. I think it was Andrew. I think I was with him at the time. He walks in. He's like, "Don't you have class?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "I'm sure I have a class somewhere."
Oh, that happened to me a couple times.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Here's the dirty on me. There was one time with my political science class, and that was like world politics, where we discussed apartheid and stuff like that. I remember waking up and feeling sick. And so I went back to bed and said, oh, well, it's just the review today. Well, I got my dates mixed up. It turns out the test was that day.
Did not know that.
So, this was my freshman year. So I went to class the next day thinking, here's the test. And then they went through the answers on the test, and I'm like, wait, what's going on? And then the professor, a female professor, handed back all of the tests. And I went, ruh-roh, Reggie. Like, oh, shit. So after class, I went up and I was like, yo, this is the skinny. She goes, why didn't you say something when I was talking about the answers? I'm like, we're in a class of 110 people. I'm not going to stand up and raise my hand and be like, I'm stupid. And so she luckily gave me a second chance test, but said I would automatically be deducted a full letter grade for the circumstances.
That's fair.
I gladly accepted because getting deducted one letter grade is 10 times better than getting a 0.
Can we just talk about how amazing it is the fact that she graded that whole fucking thing overnight?
Say what?
Can we just talk about how amazing it is that she just graded that whole thing overnight? I'm just kind of sitting here impressed by that. Or is it like some sort of like
No, it was like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class.
Oh, considering like the next day she had them all graded? Damn, that's
there was
dedication.
a 1-day buffer, but it was Scantron too.
Oh, it's Scantron. That takes 5 minutes.
Yeah. That's why it's still fun. I found it fucking hilarious, and I just dropped an F-bomb for no reason, that it would take with our finals a good 2 months to get our final grades. But like, okay, so I can have this assignment due the next day, but it's okay for you to take a month to grade it? Screw that.
It has like 600 students.
I don't care.
I like how you just lean into the mic. I don't care.
I don't care anymore. But so, long story short, I went and took the exam, and despite getting deducted a full letter grade, I got a B. Boom. B as in boom.
Mic drop right there.
Mic drop.
No, I totally understand. My sophomore year, I was in a U.S. history course from like Native Americans, all that, pre.
That wasn't with Mink, was it? Nick Mink?
No, I'll get to him in a minute. He's amazing.
I loved that man.
No, it's some guy was this
Nick
first.
Mink, if you're still out there, you commuted from Madison for a history class at UWSP. One of your requirements in order to take the final exam for your history class was to watch Boys in the Hood as part of a pizza party.
That class was amazing. I did take that class.
I loved it.
That was U.S. history from Reconstruction to modern times. I'm talking about the precursor that some other teacher taught. And that one, I honest to God, for that one, I did at best. Now we're talking, and I'll be honest, people, I don't remember because the class was boring as hell. At best, I did half the readings. And when I say I did half the readings, I mean I opened the book for half of the readings. Of that amount, I probably only legitimately read about 10%. And I skimmed the rest. And I should, and in class, no, there was no paying attention in class. There was some Hermione Granger wannabe in the front row that raised her hand every 5 minutes. I just couldn't care. And
I'll admit, at that time, I was one of those that I'd get to class and I'd look around and be like, is there anybody I find physically appealing, and should I hover around them? Because you and I both were single for the majority of our college years.
Yes, but I didn't get my dating tips from helicopters.
From helicopters?
You hovered.
Bullcrap. Hey, I had at least 2 girlfriends while I was in college. How many did you have?
I thought we were talking about a history class.
we were, but I changed this up on you a little bit.
During college?
I didn't find anybody interesting in class, but in the dorms, I was able to get some nookie.
I think I dated one girl throughout all of college.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
But so back to your history class.
So I didn't pay attention.
Follow along, Rawcast listeners.
So again, recap. Didn't pay attention. Didn't do the readings. Didn't pay attention course. Final exam comes. I take the whole final exam and everything. And I get through the end of it. And the one girl I did date in college, she actually was in that class. We were broken up by then. And so
who's that now?
Stephanie.
Wire.
Yes. So anyway, so we go and
Lo siento, mi amigo.
So we get done with the final. We come back and we get our final grades. Ace the test, 100%.
Boosh.
She was so pissed because she got a B-. But I'm sitting here like, and you know, everyone I was talking to at the time, they're all pissed off. They're like, you didn't pay attention in class. You didn't do the readings. I'm like, and yet, aced it. What's up? But that's because, they covered too much of that stuff growing up.
Yeah.
As kids, they just kept shoving the same information over. That's why I love, Mink, as you were saying, is because for his class from Reconstruction up to modern times was
unorthodox. If you want to go against,
he said pop culture standpoint.
Yeah. For example, in that Reconstruction, what we discussed when we covered the topic of inner city problems, where the jobs were leaving the inner city, ended up being poor African American communities, stuff like that. Instead of just being like, and then there was the Restoration period, we actually talked about like the rise of NWA, Straight Outta Compton. We looked at it from a pop culture standpoint because they did have political statements.
Right.
Like Dr. Dre saying, fuck flipping burgers, I deserve a 9 to 5 I can be proud of.
Right.
That is huge. And so, I'm just saying, like, having a requirement where you watch Boys in the Hood because it was such a good movie as far as, re-envisioning or bringing back or touching on the topic of the urbanization problems that we had as far as jobs leaving and being poor black communities. Because in the time of the civil rights movement, yeah, we've come a long way, but we still had these social issues that are now resounding in our 2016 presidential election that NWA, if I could spit out my words, NWA was highlighting on. It actually changed my focus. Like that was part of how I became more cultured as an individual, because professors like Nick Mink, who took the time to drive up from Madison to Stevens Point 2 or 3 times a week at the bare minimum, he taught us to open up our minds outside of the box, think a little bit, listen to other people's perspectives, and then make your decision.
Whereas I was the uncultured swine, and my favorite lecture was the 1.5-hour lecture on the history of bars, bicycles, and swimming pools in the United States. I feel kind of bad. Like I didn't take any huge changes away from it, but then again, you've always been a bit more of a deep thinker than me.
I wouldn't say deep thinker, but I mean, like, yeah, when Shannon and I started Invisible Children, I had to add that burp because it got to be too serious of a conversation.
No, I think it was the Invisible Children that caused it.
Probably. For those of you that don't know, back at the UW Stevens Point Arena, a friend and I started a campus chapter of Invisible Children. Again, if you don't know what Invisible Children is, watch South Park, look up Invisible Children. You'll get everything you need to know. But I was the founding president of a college nonprofit that helped aid Invisible Children in their efforts to help children affected by civil war in Central Africa, namely Uganda. And Spencer was a secretary,
co-secretary.
Co-secretary. We had 2 secretaries. It was cool.
Yeah, and you roped me into it because you're like, you got to get out of the house.
At that time, you were a bit of a hermit.
Yes, that is my natural state of being.
I've become such a hermit now. My wife and I are on opposite schedules. She's 3rd shift. I'm 2nd. We got 2 children. We have 2 children. Excuse me, grammatical.
I didn't say anything.
I know, but I've been trying so hard to work on my grammar. Especially, my tongue apparently just does these gymnastics I'm not aware of when I'm trying to speak words into this microphone. But, so it's made it a little more difficult for me to get out of the house. So now when I have the opportunity, like last night, no kids in the house. They stayed at Grandma and Grandpa's. I was home with Jess. We had all the opportunity to get out of the house, but did we? Psh, nah.
Dude, why would you? Kids are exhausting. It's not very often you're in your own home as a parent and you're just like, do you hear that? Shh, do you hear it?
The sound of silence.
You don't get that very often as a parent. I totally understand that, man.
But then, like, you didn't do it too often, but remember how often, like, say, Nathan and I would go to the bar?
Hey, I went to the bar quite a bit eventually.
You didn't go out with us though. You ended up
No.
going with other friends.
And that was later, and I didn't, because I had to wait till I was 21, and then I had to wait till I had money.
Yeah. Whereas at the time I was working full time and going to school full time. You remember those days?
Yeah, you actually worked during school. I worked during the summers.
And I mean, I was working 40
Right.
to 50 hours a week, easy.
Yeah, no, I didn't work during the school year, so I had to like conserve the funds. I had to make that last 9 months.
And you played more video games at the time. That was your way of unwinding. You'd get off the computer, turn on the video games, which
Right.
you were still saving money. And video games are awesome. I'm not going to deny that.
Right.
I don't care what video game it is. Cell phone video games, I don't quite count them as much because there's less going on.
Candy Crush My Soul. It's not real. It's not a real video game.
Yeah, it's freemium. Like, oh, you want to beat this level? Well, if you can't figure it out, give us $5 and we'll give you the answer. Come on, no. Halo wasn't that way. Halo had good cutscenes. I mean, they were corny at times.
So I'm laughing because you make it sound like, Candy Crush, if it had good cutscenes, it'd totally be worth it.
But, there was a storyline.
Right.
In order to have cutscenes, you basically need a good storyline. Whereas the cutscenes in cell phone games are commercials for other cell phone games.
And the story is how you waste your time. It's magical.
Exactly. It's a distraction.
Right. Well,
Whereas,
everyone
like, the
needs them.
story of Master Chief and Halo, I mean, yeah, the first Halo probably is the best, but I can appreciate and respect all three of them. I've like reached a point in my life where I don't just look at something and go, meh. I actually go, oh, what's that about? One of my cousins plays D&D, and I know you played D&D in the past.
I still would if I had the time and people.
And a shout out to Dexter. Like, he got into D&D to the point where, like, it is his fun.
Right.
Where, like, you were doing it, was it once a month or once a week?
We were trying for once a week there, but schedules stuff. Sometimes it turned into once a month.
And I mean, you have to use your imagination with Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. I mean, it's
an imaginative game.
right. You sit down, you have your laptop, computer, and sometimes you have figurines, and then you got like a grid on the table, and then the rest is just you rolling dice and talking.
Exactly. But it's the imagination of each
Right.
person that's contributing to the game that makes it fantastic.
And the best part is people I played with. Like we have like we'll sit there and we'll talk about these great moments we had in the game. Like I had a character, and none of this actually happened, but it happened in the game. And I had a character who was it was a rogue like character, and it was a gnome, and I essentially turned the character into Batman. I had a freaking grappling hook, and I made every excuse in the freaking world to use it. I would grappling hook to things that had no business me grappling to, just because I'm like, I have it, I'm using it, and away I go.
Grab that scroll. Grappling hook. Go.
Right?
But, I mean, I've always kind of had a respect for it, but it wasn't my thing. And in looking back, I wish I had gotten more involved with that. Because I have kind of reached a point where my imagination has either been dead or it's on life support. Because I try to come up with some imaginative idea, and then I'm just like, and then I'll sit there for a good hour going, well, that sucked.
I get that, but I keep mine alive by being a child in my head all the time. But
I'm getting more childish, but I think one part of why I've lost my imagination, since having kids and being on an opposite schedule, and my wife feels the same with our work schedules, it's like we are single parents,
all right.
both of us. And I haven't been reading, especially fantasy.
Yeah.
Ooh, Terry Goodkind, the Sword of Truth series.
It's funny you mentioned it. I literally just started the first book in that series like a couple days ago.
You and I will be talking more about that as you progress, because I've read all 12. 11. Because I didn't read Dead of Bones, which is kind of like a shoe.
It's freaking me out reading it right now, by the way.
Why?
Because the first book is exactly like our current political issues in the United States. It's kind of freaky.
Explain.
All right, so you have an older male.
Hold up. To set the scene, the Sword of Truth series is set in this like kind of it's a fantasy world.
Yes.
Where in the western side you have Heartland, where everybody lives like off the land. They're living in the forest. They're forest people that live off the land. And there are dangers out there, so they have people who are wardens that patrol the perimeter. Now, the perimeter is actually a magical force field that separates 3 different lands. Dahara on the far east, which is almost like Mordor in a way, but with this super badass fighting people led by a dictator. And in the middle is Midland?
Yep, Midland. Yep.
Midland is it's like the good side of the never-ending story. It's a magical land.
I would sing the song if I knew it.
It's a magical land where like all the good magical people live, whereas Dahar is ruled by a sorcerer,
right,
and nobody else has the magic.
So with that background, the way it's like freaking me out right now as I'm reading, because again, I'm not that far into the book. It's only the first book in the series, and the way the book has it set up is you have this political character from the Dahara land. For the life of me, can't think of his name right now.
I can't think of it either.
But he's like this big evil, guy from there. And he comes into the Midland after tearing down this magical border, and everyone just like throws flowers at him and welcomes him and says he's great. He's like, I am the bringer of peace, as he's killing people.
Something raw.
Yes. But anyway, so the point being, as I'm sitting there and they're talking about how the people are like, he's great, he's wonderful, he brings peace, and if you're against
Donald
him,
Trump.
exactly. I'm sitting here reading and like, he spouts peace, but then kills people, and then people who follow him, who say that they want peace, then turn around and commit horrible acts of violence in his name. I'm like, what?
It's literally like we're all gonna get along. Or else.
It's really what it feels like. And they're talking about like, we need this wizard to name a savior, and like it's this old guy that they're all turning to, and I'm just like, Bernie. And it's it's not
he's
like,
the warden out in the woods who's like, you don't go close to that border.
It's crazy. I'm not saying like it's like a perfect allegory between the two, but it's just crazy how much it feels like that reading it right now.
Darken
yes,
Raw.
That's his name. Again.
Boom.
I was just reading it this morning, so I feel like guilty that I don't remember the name.
Yeah, you should actually, because I haven't read the series in a good 5 years.
For those of you listening, for those of you who love the fantasy books, let's be honest. How many times do you actually like know how to pronounce the names of the people in the story? I mean, I remember, I'm a huge fan of the Forgotten Realms books, and half the characters, I have never heard the names spoken out loud. I say it in my head, and that's what I go with. So the fact that I can't remember his name is not a huge deal. I just think it's really, really funny that it feels so like connecting to the political thing. I don't know about you, Doug, but that's how I feel that a lot of books are. You read them the first time, you get one view of them, then you keep reading them, and every time you reread them, it links up to something current in your life.
A lot of times it can, but for example, the Dark Tower series by Stephen King.
Boom! Awesome.
Did you read all of them?
I have read all 7 of the main ones. I haven't read through the keyhole that like...
Because there's a newer one,
yeah,
right?
that keyhole one that wedges itself in between some of the... I haven't read that one.
Oh, if you have not read Stephen King's The Dark Tower series, please do.
Amazing.
The ending, and do it the right way. Start at the first book, The Gunslinger, and work your way through. It's a long, drawn-out series, but you get so attached to the characters, you get so into the story that once you finish the final pages of the 7th and final book of the series, you go, oh, holy shit.
Honestly, it was the best ending of a series across any medium I've ever experienced. Period. Mic drop. End of conversation. As far as that, I mean, it was ridiculous. I will not spoil it for anyone out there. All I can tell you is, yes, The Gunslinger, the first one in the series, is not the best. Even Stephen King himself has said it's not a great book. Please slog through it. Just deal with it and move on.
The book is essentially a drawn-out hook.
Right.
Because it's good enough, I kept reading.
Exactly. It's
about the mysterious man in black
good enough for you to
walking
keep
across the desert.
Now, did you know it's going to be made into a movie? Have you heard it's going to be made into a movie? I don't know how many.
But see, that's what bothers me with that. Because The Sword of Truth by Terry Goodkind, like we were talking about, with Dark and Raw and all that. Right. They made a TV series out of it.
Did they really?
Yeah. I illegally downloaded the first season of the show and made it 10 minutes into the first episode before I went, I'm deleting that. Because it was so terrible. Well, and I don't mean to crap on anybody's art, but when you try to create a visual concept, when you try to capture a concept written in book form for the silver screen, so to speak, it's got to be good. That's why I stayed away from The Flash, the TV show.
I haven't seen it myself.
I watched it. It's good.
I honestly haven't seen it.
It's not great. It's good. I would suggest it. Just like Daredevil. The TV show's actually fairly good. Give it a shot.
Ben Affleck will always be my Daredevil.
Oh, but that movie was terrible too.
Screw you. That movie is great. I mean,
Rotten Tomatoes.
No. We have different definitions of a good movie. I recognize a movie can be flawed as hell and it can still be a good movie.
It was good for what it was, but the more I think about it, just because it was doesn't mean it was good. Is how I look at it.
I enjoyed it.
But the fact that they went and made a spin-off with Elektra.
That movie was less good, but it's still enjoyable.
That movie was less good. Fantastic.
But no, getting back to the Dark Tower series, they are making it into the movie. Stephen King will be involved in the process, and
that's good.
Have you heard who they have to play the mysterious man in black? Have you heard? Do you know who it is?
Walter, we're talking about? Who's going to play Walter, the mysterious man in black?
Do you know who is playing him?
Pause for that. Keep that idea in mind. I just have to say, if for those of you that are not familiar with Stephen King's universe, so many, probably 3/4 of his books are tied in to the same universe. From Hearts in Atlantis, where breakers are trying to escape, the ones who are meant to break the life ties between certain realms of our world and the Dark Tower, to books like the Dark Tower series, where Roland the Gunslinger is out to protect the tower. Insomnia, even. They all take place in the same universe. And so now, that is impressive, because Walter, the mysterious man in black from the Dark Tower series, is actually in 5 or 6 different stories by Stephen King. So Spencer, back to what you were saying. What are we talking for a cast?
So the whole cast hasn't been announced yet.
They're probably still working on it.
They're still working on it. I think they're having issues right now trying to like narrow down like who's gonna be in it and everything. But and I'm trying to actually, as we talk, I'm trying to remember who they got to play Roland, because they have actually announced that.
Oh.
And I'm trying to remember. I'm actually looking up right now. My fingers do not type quickly.
This is in real time, folks.
It is. This is real time. Spencer typing really, really slowly. Because I want to get it right.
I have to ask though, because I have not read about this at all yet. Are they making it as a Dark Tower movie, or are they making The Gunslinger the movie?
That I'm honestly not sure. Okay, so
because 7 novels creating one series, you cannot cover that in a 2-hour movie.
No, I'm pretty sure they're breaking it up. I'm very sure. But the Gunslinger himself is Idris Elba.
I do not know that name.
I know. I honestly is one of the, I recognize his face. I can't. The name escaped me. But
let me see a picture. You got a picture up?
I can bring it up in just a sec. But then, of course, the mysterious man in black is Mr. Bongos himself, Matthew McConaughey.
Are you serious?
I am serious. Matthew McConaughey will be playing Walter in the movie.
Because he's known as many names. The mysterious man in black, Walter, Flag, and who else? Because he's actually still the antagonist in The Eyes of the Dragon. Did you read that Stephen King novel?
No, I have not actually read that one.
Read The Eyes of the Dragon. I know this is like free publicity for Stephen King, in a way. Not saying that we have much of a huge following online as Rawcast AD, but we appreciate us some Stephen King.
I do love me some Stephen King. I've read way too many of his books, which is actually just not true. I'm going to watch them all. I'm going to read them all, watch all the movies.
Because the Gunslinger movie, if they make it into a trilogy even, would be solid. Because eventually, around book 5 of the Dark Tower series, you actually meet one of the characters from Salem's Lot who comes in.
Right.
And with you just starting, oh, wait, no, you read it all. That's right.
I've read Salem's Lot is actually... Okay, you just got me on a tangent. Here, take my phone. I have the guy's page up. That's what he looks like. Well, Doug's looking at that. I am on a tangent here. Yes, look at my phone. Anyway, Salem's Lot, for all of you out there.
Oh!
Yeah.
Hold up. Why didn't you say this?
Because I forgot. Okay.
Idris Elba is the guy who... Oh, great. Now
He's the guy in gold and Thor who has, like, the sword on the Rainbow Road that it stops Mario from, like, crossing.
What is his name? We need his name.
The character... Then click on Thor.
My son's name is Odin, and I cannot remember who this person is supposed to be.
I know you're a little Thor with yourself, but you just look it up. Calm down.
Aladdin 3. So you're Thor. Well, it hurts. Heimdall. Idris Elba plays Heimdall.
There we go.
Okay, so that could be...
Yes.
Idris...
He's Roland.
Oh, so they're making Roland a black character.
Which is fine, you know. I mean, I think that would actually work because I think he has the age. I think Matthew McConaughey might be a little young.
Because Roland is actually an older guy.
Yeah, he's an older gentleman, and I don't think we ever get his race in the books.
No, we don't.
No. And the fact that you just assumed he was a white guy, you racist. No, I'm kidding.
No, but see that because of how the production's going,
Right.
that could have gone any which way. I don't care if he was an Asian guy, as long as they had like
as long as the guy does a great job. Who cares? I mean, Roland,
because they truly don't.
Right.
Roland is a gunslinger. They don't really talk more beyond that.
Right, and I think it's going to be, if done right. Oh my god, amazing! But back to my tangent. Yeah, back to the tangent.
Tangency.
Salem's Lot, for those of you who have not read the book, but like vampires, get off your ass. It is honestly one of the best vampire books out there that I've ever read.
Spoiler alert. I didn't read Salem's Lot yet.
Really
I missed out.
It's honestly awesome because, you know, and I read it around the same time that Twilight was hitting its peak. Like just around the Twilight's peak, I read Salem's Lot, and I'm like, awesome. Because it's like actual vampires doing actual vampire things.
Yeah.
You know, like killing people.
Well, did you ever read Anne Rice's The Vampire Chronicles?
It is on my to-do list, but I have not actually read them.
I literally have all of them except Interview with the Vampire because
but the first one.
Corinne from Iola Scandinavia School. Corinne, you borrowed my copy of Interview with the Vampire and never gave it back. That's why I'm missing the complete collection, because you took the very first book.
You're a monster.
Damn right. But no, if you get up to the point where you can get a copy of Interview with the Vampire and read that, I'd be happy to loan you any of the others.
Oh, I mean, I've heard they're amazing. I just haven't read them.
Well, have you seen the movies though? Like Interview with the Vampire, Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, Kirsten Dunst.
That movie's fantastic.
That was actually, that book and movie go hand in hand so well because I believe Anne Rice actually had creative consulting on the project.
She hated the movie before she saw it. Did you know that?
Yeah.
She was outspoken, like, oh, you shouldn't see this movie. This movie's going to be terrible. And then she said she practically cried watching it in theaters because it was so great, and then immediately turned around and said, everyone needs to watch this movie.
Yeah. But, I mean, Interview with the Vampire was the best one because then you did end up having, and was it Aaliyah that died?
Yes.
Yes. Aaliyah, wow. Yeah. Is this thing working? Jeez, this is Rawcast AD coming back from more technical difficulties that are making me mad because Spencer and I are having a gay old time here.
And you only get to hear like weird bits and pieces of it.
It is. It's almost like a highlight reel, I swear, because you and I are having what I would call engaging conversation.
We are having an engaged conversation, yes.
I mean, rings and all.
Truly.
Anyway, So we're talking about Aaliyah because that's where it cut out again and we went another 10, 15 minutes without realizing that. Audacity, you got problems, girl. So Aaliyah playing Akasha in Queen of the Damned in the Anne Rice series, the Anne Rice Universe of Vampires. Awesome job. But then we can get around back to where I was talking about how when I worked at a machine shop, I was listening to music through headphones for quite a while before I realized that got a little stale and switched to audiobooks and realized, holy crap, after having children, working full time, and trying to get my way through grad school, I can listen to audiobooks at work. I have a rather interesting situation where I can be appreciative of my job for personal gains. But ouch. So I ended up reading a lot of audiobooks at the machine shop. And eventually I landed on one with Stevens Point's own Pat Rothfuss, who is a professor at the UW Stevens Point. The Name of the Wind. Holy crap, was that a fantasy world that I wanted to live in.
Seriously, it was... those, that was the first one. The second one's Wise Man's Fear. The third one is not out yet.
When is the third one coming out, Spencer?
We don't know yet. Seriously, we don't know. I've been waiting.
Yo, Pat, I follow you on Facebook. I see you posting every day. Your posts are good, but...
Don't listen to this. Do not listen to this naysayer, Pat. Do not listen. You take your time and you make it sweet and amazing.
Pat, he's right. I apologize for my transgressions against your good name. Your beard is heavenly. Your writing is amazing. And please, quoth, do what you need to.
But anyway, for those of you listening who have not read Name of the Wind or Wise Man's Fear, honestly, some of the best writing I've ever seen, and this is coming from a guy who has an English major's degree, if it is hands down for sure the best fantasy books I've ever read. Period. End of story. Because they have the books. They're very, very engaging. They have great characters, great story, and there's a really
character
good
development.
Exactly what I was about to say. The character development just flows so well between everything, and it's one of those things I felt reading in like. Pat brings to the table, I think, some of the most realistic characters I've ever read in a book. Like it was shocking. Like there's a scene I remember in the first book, Name of the Wind, where Koth is he's in love with this girl named Denna. I'm not gonna get too much into it. He's in love with this girl named Denna, and he lives at this inn kind of house, like like a bar above it that he lives, and he knows he can maybe see her if he goes to this bar that's like a 30-40 minute walk away. Now it's snowing, it's wet, it's like snow.
He's got no shoes.
Basically, it's like horrible weather. It's like way out of his way. It'd be miserable to go there. He has no money. He just wants to go sleep. He's exhausted. He's like, she's probably not there. I'm not even going to see her. I'm not going to go. And there's like a page break and that starts up. So I walk into that bar. And I'm like, that's exactly what it's like to be like a young guy, really into some girl and she doesn't even know it.
Yep, you do what's necessary, but yet somehow you still don't exist. He captured it so well.
It was kind of amazing, and I've never seen that done in a fantasy setting, which is why again the magic was so well done in the books. I think the way he wrote the system was amazing. So honestly, if you haven't read those books, whether you like fantasy or not, get off your ass, go get them,
make some moves, motherfucker.
Go do it. Go do it right now. Stop this recording. Put a comment in the section about how you had to stop the recording because I told you to just now, and go get those freaking books, and then come back and finish this recording. We'll wait. Hold on. We'll wait. Okay. Now, yeah, you're back.
Right now, where I'm at, I'm waiting for Pat to come out with book 3. I'm waiting for Martin to come out with book 6. And then. On the flip side, going down to like what's more appetizing fantasy would be like the Harry Potter books.
Mm-hmm.
Because I still enjoy the Harry Potter series.
Dude, funny you should say. Literally this morning, I'm sitting there and I see somebody on Facebook posted the ultimate Harry Potter quiz. It was a 57 question quiz. And I'm like, got this. Crushed it with a 55 out of 57 answers correct. I haven't read those books in years, and they are amazing. They'll always be amazing.
It's digestible, will I say. The writing, it flows nicely. There's a good flow to it that
Right.
brings you into the story. She does such a good job that those are enjoyable books because there's not all that much work involved to be able to read a good frickin' story.
Right. And I think she does have a good story. She has great characters, and I think she hits on, the magic's done very well. The magic in the books are very well done. I like how it works and everything.
Enough to the point that when I see those stupid posts on Facebook, like, pick one. You get to live in the Harry Potter world, or you get to be a Jedi, like Luke Skywalker. I'm like,
Harry Potter.
seriously, as big of a Star Wars fan as I am,
Oh, right.
and you have, ever since you've known me, I've been huge into Star
Right.
Wars.
Me as well.
But 9 times out of 10, I'm like, basically have a bunch of enemies in the galaxy that you travel and don't have much of a life, or have the ability to have a cool, like, wizardry home. Harry Potter.
Harry Potter hands down for that, and again, it's, the characters in the book are again astounding, and I think characterization really brings home a good book just as much as story or anything else, and I think some authors miss that lesson.
Yeah, actually, with the Dark Tower series, Stephen King does such a beautiful job with Roland
Oh my God, amazing!
that despite the Gunslinger being a bit of a slow book, that's where you realize it's a downward spiral. And that's just the start of him going downhill before anybody knows it.
Those seriously,
Oh,
just
did you
add
hear
that to your
that
list.
statement? 7 books, and I just described it that way. What happens in the Dark Tower series by Stephen King?
What? Anyway, seriously, read those books.
Boom.
But yeah, for those of you out there who are readers, there's so many good books out there, and I think too many of them get ignored.
And that's why I don't use it enough anymore because I've been out of reading, but goodreads.com,
Awesome.
check that out. That to me, that's like the Facebook equivalent of, hey, these are my friends and check out these books I've read.
Have you ever heard of CinemaSins YouTube's channel? I think I've sent you a link to it.
Did you? Because I didn't follow up on some of those.
You're kind of a horrible person. If you're listening to this and you love movies, CinemaSins is amazing. The guy, he sits there and he'll go through movies and he'll sin them for things they did wrong, inaccuracies, crap that's bad about them. The reason I bring this up, you sit there and be quiet for a second, sir. The reason I bring this up is because the guy wrote a book called The Ables. If you haven't read The Ables, please go out and do so. I've read the book. The book is amazing.
Do you have a copy of the book?
I do, not physically on me. But I do.
Well, not here, but would you be able to let me borrow it?
Under the assumption that if you mess it up, you buy me a new one. Yes.
Of course, that is the...
Fist bump.
Yeah, I'm reading me a copy of that book in the near future, Rawcast.
The Ables. I do apologize to the author. If you are listening on the off chance, I cannot remember your name at the moment. I love CinemaSins. Watch every episode. I can actually look it up. I'll look it up on my phone in a minute here. But anyway, so the plot of the book is very. It's about superheroes essentially.
Okay.
And it's a world in which superheroes exist. That people know about them. They go around save. So think of the movie The Incredibles. Very similar to that. And
I am a fan.
right. So the book is told from the perspective of this young boy who doesn't know his parents are superheroes, and he's blind. And he comes into his powers, and he's telekinetic, so he can move things with his mind, but he's blind, and the power is based around sight.
So it's kind of like Daredevil.
Kind of. And then he ends up going to school for superhero kids in this like town for superheroes. And he gets put in the disabled kids class with all the other kids who have superpowers who are physically disabled. And he has friends that are like in wheelchairs and everything else. And all the other kids like don't want anything to do with them because like you can't be real superheroes because, you're disabled. And it's about these kids learning to use their powers even though they have physical disabilities. It is an amazing book. I highly recommend to anyone who loves superheroes and or books of that kind of like powered awesome fantasy nature.
All I can say to that is, wow.
It seriously, it is really, really good.
I am truly intrigued.
I'm trying to remember what all the characters are in the book. I read it quite a while ago. Obviously, with school, I don't get much time. Hold on, I'm trying to look up right now. Again, it's called The Ables.
The Ables.
The Ables.
The Ables.
Because, the whole idea that they are able.
The Ables.
They're not disabled. Jeremy Scott, that's his name.
Just the way you said that. They're not disabled.
They're able.
They're obviously, they're specially able.
So again, that author is Jeremy Scott. That's The Ables. Really, really, really good book series. And it follows on the thing that not a lot of people heard it. Doug hasn't heard of it.
How many books in the series?
Just the one.
How's it a series if there's one?
Because I'm assuming he's making more.
Is it new enough that
yes,
he has...
it just came out within the last year or two. So he hasn't had time, obviously, to put out a second one. But
hey, start buying that first one. Give him some money to give him some time to write the second one, folks.
Seriously, go out and get the book. It is amazing. I highly, highly recommend it. Especially if you love superhero movies and are kind of sick of the same formula and you want to shake it up. Awesome place to start.
Now, are you teaming up with Team DC or Marvel?
Okay.
Would you rather basically see more of, why can't I think of them? The Avengers, or would you rather see the Justice League?
I'll be honest. I think of DC as Batman and his bitches. DC has Batman and not much else going for it in my mind.
Is Batman your favorite?
Actually, no. Batman is not my favorite superhero, but he is definitely in the top. He is definitely in the top. That's really hard for me to say right now.
Because Batman is in my top 3.
Oh, easy. Batman's easily my top 3. I would probably... We could do an entire series on just our top favorite stuff. But
pretty much
off the cuff, I'm gonna say, in no particular order, for 2 and 3, I'd say Batman and probably Wolverine.
So you're switching between DC and Marvel.
Oh,
huh?
yeah, we're talking all superheroes. If you want me to do just DC?
Because X-Men is in the Marvel universe.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But my absolute favorite at the moment character is Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man.
Why is that?
Because Spider-Man is one of those characters where he cares a lot about his family and he wants to protect his identity, but he also has that pithy wittiness like Deadpool, but without all like the vulgarness.
It's more angst.
It's more angst than...
Okay.
I just really think his character's really neat and everything like that.
So basically you're excited to see Spider-Man in Civil War.
Oh my god, so excited. I am so freaking excited. Especially because the costume. Have you seen the trailer?
Yes.
Yes. Did you recognize the costume that he was in? Like the Spider-Man did you recognize what they did with it?
I recognize what they did with it, and I actually read up on some articles about it. But you are obviously educated on the subject. Continue, sir.
They gave him like all the current Spider-Man. So for you listening, every Spider-Man movie you've seen from Tobey Maguire on, all of those have been Spider-Man costumes based on Spider-Man comics from the 90s onward. So that's why you see like with the raised webbing and all this other kind of stuff, and they look really neat. I'll give you that. But the Spider-Man we're going to be seeing in the Civil War film, that one is based on I believe it's the Silver Age comics of Spider-Man. So you see him, the eyes are going to look different. The costume's going to look different. You can definitely tell if you look at the spider on his chest, you're seeing like that old school version of like the symbol and not any of the new ones. Though I was a huge fan, and I don't care how many people rip on it. The 2 Amazing Spider-Mans, though, I'll give you the one with Jamie Foxx was not that great, but the first one for the Amazing Spider-Man, that was a great movie.
With Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man.
Yes, I thought he did a great job. Though
I loved him.
Right, I thought those were good movies. I wanted to see more of that. I'm kind of sad they rebooted it.
Well, yeah, the reboot was way too soon because realistically, Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
Gwen Stacy was the original. Like, even the Spider-Man show we grew up with on TV, because I do like the animated series as well. Justice League with Batman, boom. Ooh. I love it. Like, there are so many animated Batman movies. And the Batman series that we watched, was it Bob Kane?
Dude.
Boom.
I don't want to tangent because we're talking about this, but I literally just watched like a 10-minute sneak preview, like mini documentary on the Killing Joke movie that's going to be coming out this summer.
And they're bringing back Hamill, too, right?
All the original... So, you 90s fans out there, those who grew up watching Batman the Animated Series in the 90s, all the original voice cast...
The dark animated series.
Yes, all the original voice cast from the show have come back to do this movie.
So, Mark Hamill, who played Batman again?
I think it was Kane. Was it Bob Kane? I can't. Okay, sorry. I'm terrible with names.
The
Sue me.
popular one that created it. Let's Google this, man.
Google the hell out of that right now while I talk. But seriously,
Whoops, passwords are hard.
it is a it looks fantastic. I watched the preview. So if you can go online right now, you can look up that it's like a 10-minute like mini documentary preview on The Killing Joke. It's going to be an animated movie coming out this summer, for Batman, and it shows you like the origins of the Joker. And it's voiced by Mark Hamill. And I don't care what anyone says. I don't care how amazing Heath Ledger was as the Joker, because he really was. But Mark Hamill, his voice as the Joker will always be the Joker in my mind.
Kevin Conroy.
There you go.
Kevin Conroy as Batman. Mark Hamill as the Joker. Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. as Alfred J. Pennyworth. Because Alfred is an important character.
Oh, of course.
Always.
Jeremy Irons is him in the new one. Amazing. Oh, Jeremy Irons made a great Alfred.
But one thing I appreciate, I think one of the reasons I really like the Nolan trilogy of Batman, because, yeah, Batman Begins was a great origin story movie. Honestly, my two favorite origin story movies, actually my top three, I'll say, are Thor, Batman Begins, and Iron Man. Iron Man, the first Iron Man did such a good job of an origin story. It was beautiful.
It really was.
But then 2 and 3 were fucking bad.
What?
2 was okay. 3 was like, ugh.
Well, I'll get my memory's fuzzy on 3.
And I haven't been saying anything negative about anything for a while, but I sat in the theater with my wife who wanted me to have an enjoyable time. And when Ben Kingsley turned out to be what he was in the movie, I just went, what a waste of talent.
No, I completely disagree. I thought that was actually kind of neat.
Of course you would, though, because you're into the corny style of it. I bet you like George Clooney as Batman.
No, there is no nipples on my batsuit. No.
Batman and Robin was such a bad movie.
Oh my god, that was awful. I think that's universally awful. Everybody thinks it's awful.
Even George Clooney thinks it's awful.
But
Batman Forever. That one I thought was okay. Jim Carrey as the Riddler. Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. Val Kilmer as Batman.
It wasn't terrible.
At the beginning of the comic book style era, where they thought comic books should be corny like the Adam West Batman, that's the direction they went. Batman Forever was good, but in a corny, quirky Adam West style Batman way.
Right, like a fever dream kind of way.
Whereas Batman and Robin, you were looking at basically the marketability.
Right.
Because you were saying, like you told me once, with the marketability of Batman and Robin, the Schumer one.
Yeah.
What did they do with that again?
As the story goes, they were told, Schumer was told that when he was making the movie that he has to make the movie, like put as many gadgets in, make the movie as toy friendly as possible. Let's get the maximum number of toys out of the door. So they were actually taking
they took the Power Rangers route.
Seriously, like they, from what I've seen, and read, they were saying that they took design sketches for things that were possibly going to be in the movie, rushed them off to China, and already started producing toys for things that may not actually end up in the film. Which is why if you look at the toy line from the movie,
they kind of
there's
suck.
Random toys like vehicles and stuff that were never in the movie.
The Bat Umbrella.
No, that was Batman Returns.
See, and that's what I'm saying. Wow. I appreciate the Tim Burton era.
Oh yeah, I mean, those movies were good. I mean,
Danny DeVito as the Penguin was as a kid, that was creepy to me.
It's creepy as an adult watching it, because as a kid you don't really notice all the really creepy sexual comments that the Penguin makes in the movie, and as an adult you're sitting there like, oh no.
That is very true. But I mean, Michael Keaton as Batman was good. Adam West served a purpose. But I appreciate the Arkham style Batman. The dark Batman. And you were telling me there might be some spoiler alerts here.
I'll try to keep the spoilers to a minimum.
I have yet to see Batman vs. Superman. Mr. Spencer here has seen it.
He has.
Your turn to talk for a while again.
If you haven't gone out and see the new Batman versus Superman movie, Dawn of Justice, I do recommend seeing it. I've seen a lot of critics give it a hard time, and I'm not saying it's a perfect movie. It is by far a perfect movie, but it's good. It's good.
You just said by far it's a perfect movie, even though you were trying to say that it's not a perfect movie.
I speaks as I like. You people understand me.
Excuse me, I am the one that has been drinking alcohol.
Yeah, and I'm the sober one. Your point.
And I'm still correct.
I have to drive. Okay. Anyway.
No. I'm still correct, as in what you were saying is Batman
right.
versus Superman is a perfect movie because you misspoke.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's right. You don't want to get here. You see this pop filter going right into my mic? I schooled you, and I've had 3 drinks.
For those of you still listening,
yeah, sorry if you tuned out, but it is Spencer's floor.
For those of you still tuning in, seriously, good on you. This is like hour 3 of this conversation. For those of you still listening, if you haven't gone out and seen Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, I highly recommend it. Mainly because it's a really fun movie. It's not a perfect movie. There are things wrong with it. Some of the dialogue is really kind of cheesy with it. Some of the scenes make less than perfect sense. But you go watch it for nothing else than the fact that Ben Affleck as the Dark Knight freaking kills it. Jeremy Irons as Alfred freaking kills it. Honest to God, I think that with Ben Affleck, if he continues to play Batman, he will easily, hands down, become my all-time favorite Batman.
See, even though I haven't seen the movie, I listened to Kevin Smith because I do love Smodcast, and then Fat Man on Batman. Do you ever listen to Kevin Smith stuff?
I don't, but I wish I did because I love Kevin Smith.
Honestly, go to smodco.com, check it out. I know he's way bigger than us, but Kevin Smith he's just an all-around cool dude.
He is. If you're listening, Kevin Smith, we love you.
And we would appreciate a shout out because Silent Bob, you're our only hope. But anyway, no, Kevin Smith does a great job, and he actually talks about this stuff all the time. Right now, he just finished up directing an episode of The Flash.
Cool. That is actually really cool.
I'm looking forward to that, but I'm a season behind because I'm watching on Netflix.
Damn.
So then people are like, oh my God, on The Flash, this happened? Like, even with The Walking Dead, it was, oh, on The Walking Dead, this happened? And I'm like, shut up. I'm a season behind because I'm a Netflix guy.
You're like, you're sitting there like the Fairly Odd Parents from Nickelodeon in the 90s. You're like, I would watch it if I had it.
Yeah, basically, Dinkelberg. But no, it's... You're making me lose it, man.
Sorry.
You're just too good at that. You pry me open. Silence. But no, Kevin Smith, like, I would check that stuff out because it really is sweet. Like, Kevin Smith directing an episode of The Flash. As much of a comic book fan as that guy is, I mean, you've seen the show, right? Comic Book Men?
I've seen a few episodes, yes.
It's good. I think it's pretty good.
Did you hear about his interactions with The Force Awakens?
Negative. Fill me in while I make myself a whiskey sour.
Sure. I was watching an interview with him on YouTube, and he was saying that he was actually allowed to come on to visit the set of The Force Awakens, and apparently they had to prep the set for his arrival because supposedly Kevin he has this like notorious kind of like reputation for getting really excited about things he sees that he shouldn't be talking about yet because they haven't like been released, and then giving spoilers. So they had like signs posted all over the set for Force Awakens, just like, about like not giving out spoilers and stuff like that for the day he was there. So he was there, he got to be on set, and he said that he walked onto the set for the Millennium Falcon, looked around, and just started crying. Because it was so emotional for him. Because he was like, it was like he's on.
That's a dream come true.
It's a dream. He's on the Millennium Falcon. He's there, and apparently it was just so overwhelmed. He just started crying.
He lives this stuff.
Oh, I mean, I'm pretty sure.
If you honestly have not heard him and Mike Mosier on Smodcast,
yeah,
check that out.
I really should. I should make time for that.
I used to quit because the inspiration for Rawcast AD I listened to music at the machine shop for a while. I listened to audiobooks for quite a while. And around the last couple months that I worked there, I listened to podcasts. And that was so great. WTF with Mark Maron, Smodcast with Mike Mosier and Kevin Smith. You know, the list goes on. Even the Joe Rogan Experience. That is such a good podcast.
Right, because they all make really, really good shows, and this one will someday be amongst that list.
What a guy can hope, you know. Like Joe Rogan, he got into hunting and living
Right.
off the land.
Right.
And I follow him on Facebook. The guy there's a type of smoker type thing that you use to cook meat.
Yeah, yeah.
It cooks meat perfectly. And he's had like moose stew, moose steak, elk, caribou, deer, like whitetail deer, like bear. He has all these different types of meats. The guy, you look at his pictures on Facebook because he is involved in the UFC and all that.
Okay.
He's a very physically fit guy, and then he's going out bow hunting for wild game. He's
Bear wrestling for meat.
pretty much. And he is eating so healthy. He even does the cryogenic health, you know?
God.
Where you basically go in, it's like negative 200 degrees, and you deal with that for 3 minutes, and then you come out, and it like revitalizes you.
Yeah, because you almost died.
Kinda, yeah. It resets you. But he's into that kind of thing.
Right.
It's insane to me, but he's an interesting character to follow. So the Joe Rogan Experience, it's a great show. Like I said, WTF with Mark Maron, because I don't know if you watched IFC's Maron. They put it on Netflix.
No, I haven't.
You'd like Mark Maron. He's very neurotic.
Neurotic.
In one episode, basically, he's dating a dominatrix.
Okay.
And he's okay with her being a dominatrix and all that.
Okay.
But she tries to apologize for an argument they had by baking him brownies. And spoiler alert for this episode, but he dumps her because he's really super uncomfortable with how that's basically what somebody in a normal relationship would do. He's okay with her like peeing on clients for money and stuff like that, but she bakes him brownies. Is like, no, I'm uncomfortable with that.
Who hates brownies? What sick bastard hates brownies?
Like he sits on the couch and he like holds the brownies and he's just like, I'm really sorry, but we can't do this anymore.
You're like, I loved you until you made me brownies.
Basically, you should check out the show. Anybody that's listening, Spencer, you too, check out Maron. You'd appreciate it. Have you watched Louie?
No, I don't watch a show, and I don't watch it on purpose.
Why don't you watch Louis C.K.'s show, Louie?
I because no offense if he's listening magically, but from what little I've seen of his humor, it's not my cup of tea. I can totally see where people of that think of that type of that's what they find funny would find him hilarious. I grant him that in the world.
It's very different than his stand-up.
It's not my kind of humor.
Basically, in my opinion, with Louis C.K., his stand-up was always solid for what he was going for, but his show is the humanization of the stand-up comedian Louis.
But see, his show looks like, looking at like clips, like commercials and stuff for his show. It reminds me of the same reason why I don't like Ben Stiller.
Why?
I don't like uncomfortable humor.
Oh,
I don't like humor drawn from uncomfortable situations because it makes me feel uncomfortable and I don't find it funny because I feel I empathize so much with the guy that I feel uncomfortable and I can't find the humor. I mean, I see the humor and I know why it's funny, but I don't laugh because I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, I suppose I can see that because I've learned to enjoy it. It made me uncomfortable for a long time. But like when Louis is out with his daughters for Halloween and like people try to mug him or whatever, his daughters step up and they're just like, "You go away, you bad man." That's how they kind of win the day. And it's so uncomfortable, but it's hilarious at the same time.
that sounds like some sort of like Stockholm syndrome. I didn't like it at first. It made me really uncomfortable, but after a while, I really learned to like it.
Although you are right, go to hell, man. No, because I appreciate what he does. Remember, Robin Williams committed suicide. Now, suicide's a tough issue, especially with me. I've got friends who had family members commit suicide, stuff like that. And so I'm all about preventing that. I just want to get that message out because we had mentioned it was a little off color again. But let's bring it back.
Bring it back.
Bring me back, buddy. Bring me back.
Back to where we started from.
Sure, let's do that.
Because we were talking about Louis C.K. I did mention Ben Stiller. I don't find him particularly funny. A lot of people yell at me for that.
I'm not going to argue.
I mean, I there's a couple of movies he's been in that I liked. But for the most part, I just don't think. No, Doug. But for the most part, I just don't think he's that great. I mean, again, some of the movies have been good, but he by himself cannot carry a film. Like, I think
he's a good supporting actor.
Right. I think the movie I realized that him and I aren't just going to happen, and I will see you later, was Along Came Polly.
Why didn't you like Along Came Polly?
I didn't think it was funny.
I thought it was decent.
I remember I think that was the movie with the poop scene where he's like shitting his pants in like in like a club or something
because of the Indian food.
Yeah, and I'm watching that scene and that's exactly what I remember. That's where the light went on my head. I'm like, no, I'm done with Ben Stiller movies.
But what about Zach and Miri Make a Porno?
He was in that movie. I remember the movie.
I
don't remember him.
No. You're having a problem with the poop humor.
No, not the poop humor. His poop humor. It's very dependent on the actor. Like Zach Mini Make a Porn, I know exactly what scene you're talking about. That was hilarious.
Oh, the corn's like where if you pause you can see corn? That scene?
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
You didn't know that?
No.
On the pullout scene?
Oh, I did not know that. No. But
did you not watch the unrated version?
Okay. For those of you who are listening,
Zach and Miri Make a Porno, which is marketed at Walmart as Zach and Miri because they didn't want to have the word porno in a movie title. Walmart, get some scruples.
Well, what I'm saying is, those of you who are still listening to this marathon episode, but those of you who are still listening, that movie, I've only seen it once. I've never rented it. I've never watched the version. The one and only time I've ever seen that movie.
Which version?
The unrated whatever magical version. The one and only time I've ever seen that movie, I shit you not, it was at the UW Stevens Point Theater with all the other students. So I'm like, sitting there like, this is really the school's playing this movie for us?
But was it marketed as Zach and Miri Make a Porno?
I'm fairly
or
sure.
Was it Zach and Miri?
I don't remember. That was years ago. I was drunk.
Because the Zach and Miri thing really kind of crippled it. Because there was a lot more adult humor because Kevin Smith helped produce that movie.
I remember really liking the movie. I was surprised I liked it. Because I went into it not thinking I would. And I did, and I enjoyed the movie. But the actors carried the awkward humor well. Jay
Muse is good.
Right, and that's kind of
the guy who plays Jay in Jay and Silent Bob.
Yes. But going back to Ben Stiller, I don't he makes uncomfortable humor far too uncomfortable.
Which one does?
Ben Stiller.
Oh, you're going back to Ben Stiller.
I'm sorry, because that was the point I was trying to make, and then you brought in Zach and Mindy.
Miri.
Whatever.
Zach and Miri.
The point is, again, I just don't like uncomfortable humor. Sorry. There it is.
It's so sad that you don't appreciate that. What do you think of the movie Dogma?
Dogma's hilarious.
Kevin Smith.
Dogma is one of those movies that...
Who the hell are you? I'm Rufus, the 13th apostle.
As a Catholic watching that movie, I die every time. It's one of those movies, like, as a Catholic, like, I'm sitting there, like, every time I watch it, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be watching this. I shouldn't be laughing at this. This movie's great.
Oh, Kevin Smith, you outdid yourself with Dogma. I love it so much.
The movie's just... And then... I think the his choice for Alanis Morissette to play God, perfect.
As at the time in the 90s, there was no better choice.
I still think that of all the characters to ever play God, I think she was one of my favorites just because it was hilarious.
And in case you guys aren't aware, when it comes to the choice of Alanis Morissette as God in Dogma, It is the best choice because you ought to know. Alanis Morissette as God in Dogma was the bee's knees.
Right.
The cat's meow.
Yeah, because she wasn't allowed. I love her music, but she was perfect because she could act out the part even though she wasn't allowed to talk, which I think was amazing. You pick
Which
a singer,
was even better.
right? But then, unlike like Morgan Freeman made fantastic God in Bruce Almighty,
Yep.
but you couldn't
Even
cast
if
him
it was a corny movie,
right
because of the cast, they made it a good movie.
But you couldn't have him as God in Dogma because if you take away his voice, he's still amazing. I mean, he's freaking Morgan Freeman. He is the shit, and the world will be one of the saddest places freaking ever when he dies. But a lot of it's dependent on his voice and his charisma in speaking.
Yes.
And if you take that away, he's still great, but, Alanis Morissette was just this adorable, like, little fairy figure fucking running around.
It was too good.
Bloody bodies everywhere as God.
Despite the complexities of the
adorable.
situation, Alanis Morissette played it off as, like, a child in wonderment of the world.
Right.
But one of my favorite supporting characters in Dogma was George Carlin as the bishop, right?
Yes, I believe he was the... Bishop or Archbishop? Bishop? Yes.
Ketchup.
Shut up. But yeah, I think he did a great job in the movie. And of course, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon as the two angels, which I thought was hilarious because, coming from Wisconsin here, that they were banished for eternity to Wisconsin until the apocalypse, and then they have to sit outside the gates of heaven. And I just remember there was a scene where they were asked, was Wisconsin really that bad? And I always just laugh because I'm like, no, Wisconsin's awesome. For all you out there listening, most of you are from Wisconsin and completely understand that this is like one of the best states. If not, I believe it's the best. I just don't want to piss off other people.
But when it's difficult for me because like I have family members that moved out of the country. My cousin Lindsay, shout out to you in London. My mom, my grandma, and my aunt are all in London right now visiting my cousin.
Are they bringing you back tons and tons of Doctor Who stuff?
I fucking hope so, but I don't think my mom knows I like Doctor Who.
What time is there? Get on the phone. Text her.
They're going to be back in time for the Wisconsin primary, Tuesday, April 5th. Which was last week.
I'll say you can't shout out to a primaries that have already happened by the time they're listening to this.
I can because that's my choice, and y'all just ain't worth it. No, I'm kidding. But no, I really hope they do bring back some stuff. By the way, let's switch gears. Favorite Doctor?
Oh my God.
Honestly, for me, David Tennant. I have become a David Tennant fan. Our mutual friend Maddie actually told me about a nature documentary about dolphins narrated by David Tennant last night. And my wife and I are watching a nature documentary narrated by David Attenborough, who is a legend, of course. But David Tennant talking about dolphins, sign me up for that camp.
That's honestly like the hardest question because for me it comes down to David Tennant or Matt Smith.
You're not even gonna consider Chris, was it Eccleston?
I liked him. He was my first Doctor because I did watch them in a row. I've seen some of the older Doctors.
Other than the classic, yeah.
I went back. I've seen some of the classic Doctors. They just don't do it for me. Sorry.
I'm putting a dip in again.
But no, he doesn't rank as my favorite. And then what's
Peter Capaldi?
Thank you. I've only seen a little bit of him as the Doctor because I'm honestly really, really behind in watching episodes for various reasons. One of which being that Netflix lost the rights to Doctor Who.
Yeah, that sucked.
And I'm too poor at the moment to have Amazon Prime. So I can't watch it. Anyway, so I haven't seen much of him.
Amazon, you kind of suck.
But from what I've seen of him. He's not my favorite. I mean, he's okay. He's a good Doctor, just not my favorite.
He brings it back to kind of a classic era of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
But the way David Tennant, he was fantastic.
Oh, by far. I mean, he was outstanding. And I said, and the reason I can't really decide between David Tennant and Matt Smith is because they both did hands down like the most beautiful job at it, but they were different Doctors. Like they did the role differently.
Do you know what my favorite episodes were?
Do tell.
is when David Tennant, Matt Smith, and John Hurt all play the Doctor.
The Day of the Doctor.
The Day of the Doctor. That's when
beautiful.
I realized I could not decide. Even John Hurt is one of my favorite Doctors. The three of them, I went, that's a tie.
That was a really, really good episode. I love the callback with David Tennant as his version of the Doctor left at the end of it to hit one of the last lines of his. Because I'm making a jackass myself because now I can't remember the line. But he said something to the fact he wasn't he's not ready. He doesn't want to go or something like that. And have you seen his last episode as the Doctor, like the special where he leaves?
I can't remember.
Where
I do not recall.
Where he saves Donna Noble's father's life, and because of that he is dying, so he's going to have to transform.
Oh yeah. I think I did see that one.
It's phenomenal
because I watched all the David Tennant and Matt Smith.
Right. And if you haven't watched Doctor Who, it's honestly one of the better episodes, one of the best episodes, mainly because you feel it so passionately watching David Tennant, because he still wanted to be the Doctor. I don't know if you know this, but David Tennant loved the Doctor since he was a kid.
That was his lifelong dream,
was to be the Doctor. So when they told him you're done as the Doctor, I mean, he would have played the role freaking forever. When they told him, okay, we're done, he wasn't ready. That's why when you watch that last episode, he's crying. That is real. That's not acting. He doesn't. That's real tears
because his dream, his childhood dream, is ending.
Oh, yeah, and it's very emotional. And then you all of a sudden you got Matt Smith, and then it's a totally different Doctor. I think they're both the best Doctor possible for that version of the Doctor. So if you want like a slightly broody but still funny Doctor,
because Chris Eccleston was good for the setup, but he couldn't spike it.
No, I don't think he could, and I think that's because he had creative differences on where the show would go, and that's actually why he left the show.
Yeah,
because he didn't like where they wanted to the direction Moffat wanted to take the show. But so if you want like a funny but broody Doctor, David Tennant, your way to go all the way. You know, sign me up. If you want a funny, more playful Doctor, Matt Smith's your guy. I'm there.
But then you look at the time frame where the Matt Smith Doctor came out. We were post-recession, so post-2011. You and I are getting out of college, and things kind of look down. We're struggling to find good jobs. We got student loans. And then we got Matt Smith, who plays a more playful, life is great Doctor.
And reminds everybody, as we're looking for jobs, bow ties are cool.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
So, although there are a lot of critics that say Matt Smith was the most silly of Doctors.
If you've watched the classics, that is not true.
Exactly. So Matt Smith played a more childish, like, ooh, what does this do? He's a more curious Doctor.
But he was also that much more fearsome when he was actually, like, pissed off.
Exactly. And so Matt Smith did an incredible job, really.
Right.
Because especially at that time, you look at where that was, like, when it was produced, what time in society. I need to slow down and choose my words on NPR. Matt Smith played a hell of a Doctor for the time frame. We needed that carefree, ooh, what does this do, curious type Doctor.
Right.
And so then when the Day of the Doctor came, where you had the David Tennant who was struggling with the power of the Doctor, Matt Smith, who was the curious Doctor, with John Hurt of the post-decision Doctor that was like, what should I do?
He was the badass motherfucker Doctor.
It was so good.
He's like, I'm going to kill me some Daleks, Doctor.
Essentially, because that was the Great War.
Yeah.
Ooh. So what else can we cover?
I don't know. We can keep trying to cover topics, or we can call it an episode. I know it's gone. I don't know what our time marker's at.
We're at 44 minutes now. I think we're at like 19 before when we had technical difficulties.
Are you sure? I'm pretty sure we were at much more over an hour.
Oh, we got to be over there now. But either way, I've had a couple drinks now. Post-coffee, post-Democratic primary,
Discussion.
Republican primary of Wisconsin.
Which you heard last week.
Which you heard last week due to the upload time. But either way, Spencer joined me. First time we've talked together in almost a year face to face.
It's been way too long.
We covered fantasy. We covered books. And that's good enough for me because those are the things that used to bring me so much joy. And now I need to read again. Any closing words, my friend?
Yeah, since you're obviously going to be listening to this at the primary, I hope you voted. If not, for shame. No, I'm kidding.
If you haven't voted, I don't want to hear a single complaint from you as a result of the election. The primary.
But yeah, closing out again, some of the shout outs that we gave earlier, Patrick Rothfuss, Name of the Wind, seriously, go read that. The Ables, go read that. Just go read. That would be fantastic. Put down the Candy Crush, pick up a book. That's a great way to go. But seriously, if you any of the topics that we talked about, I'm sure Doug would appreciate, especially our international listeners. Back to that shout out to you guys. Leave comments if you think, oh well, why don't you seriously, this is what you're gonna do right now. You're gonna this is gonna be done in a minute. You're gonna go to the comments and you're gonna list what is your favorite Doctor. Let's put down what are some of your favorite sci-fi fantasy
especially
books.
Our British listeners.
Oh yeah, I would love to hear a British person's perspective on the Doctor because I don't know any.
Exactly.
So I
don't either.
I would love to hear that. So seriously, in the comments below, go ahead, put down some of your favorite books. Go ahead and put down what your favorite Doctor is, who your favorite superhero is, and why. All that good stuff.
We want to hear it. This is about a community. Spencer is right in every way of discussing that topic. But in one of my most favorite episodes now, this is Spencer and Doug closing out Rawcast. Spencer, send us off.
Later, guys.